And this football team, I think you learned a lot about this football team as if you didn't already know who they were. They could beat you any which way, and they play to the buzzer. Braylon, this was as gritty a performance, and I hate to use these slogans. I do. I'm not one of those cheesy guys when it comes to pun on words or anything like this, but this is exactly who the Detroit Lions tell you who they are. They gritted that one out.
Yeah, Ryan, it's not being cheesy when this is their motto. This is what they said they were 3 years ago, and this is who they remain to be. Like, just watching that game, I don't have to come up here and tell you stories about when I was in the league and there was this team this one time, and you just can see it. 5 interceptions, the novices of the novice fan can tell you 5 interceptions, you're supposed to lose that game, man. They won, and they won in the regulation. They just find ways to win. I was watching Rex Ryan, former coach of mine, earlier today on ESPN. You saw it too. Oh, yeah. The sum of their parts the whole is more than sum of the parts. Like, their whole is more than the sum of the parts. It's not about what Amon-Ra can do. It's not about what David Montgomery can do. It's not about Jahmyr Gibbs or Carlton Davis. It's not about those guys as individuals. It's about the whole. And sometimes each other has to pick each other up, and that's what they were doing. And obviously, the most legendary soundbite that we'll get was the whole Dan Campbell thing with the delayed interview and then the Carlton Davis interception. The whole is what makes these Lions a great team. They're able to pick each other up as brothers. Even on the same side of the ball, they can get each other going. You don't think Amon-Ra, Dave Montgomery, and the offensive line was talking to Jared Goff the whole game, saying, hey, look, we here with you, brother. Hey, look, hey, let's go. Next play, and eventually they get the win. So it's just fun watching them as a team. We'll get into the individuals, but as a team, you don't see things like this too often. That's the other thing that Rex Ryan said. He said this is the best team, T-E-A-M, in the NFL.
Listen, man, they had a lot of pressure on Goff early. A lot of those passes were nearly tipped. That pass to Jameson Williams should have been a touchdown if he had one more second to unload that ball. It was a little short, and it got broken up. But 3 of those interceptions are one's a what do you call it at the end of the first half?
Hail Mary.
The other, basically,
so really 4.
Basically fumble. There's almost a fumble on 2 of them. They really weren't that bad. Tip drills. 2 of them were tipped by the Houston Texans, into another hand of a Houston Texan. They were weird interceptions. It wasn't his best game. I don't even think that was his worst game. I know it looks like it on paper, but the Tampa Bay game was his worst game by far. That was his worst game. This game, he finished the game. The Tampa Bay game, he did not finish.
Yeah, it seems like somehow Stick has replaced bodies with the Tom Mazaway that I know, and Stick is now sitting in front of me and not Tom Mazaway. Look, I understand what you're saying. There was some tips, but part of that still falls on Jared Goff. It still falls on him as the quarterback. Jared Goff understands how to play this game. You saw in a couple of those interceptions where he stared down the defenders. He let you know where the ball was going. Shouldn't have made a couple of those throws, and short hitching it throws interceptions. So, Maz, we're not going to sit here and make this the Jared Goff day where we say, hey, it wasn't as bad as it was, and he still got the win. It was a bad game from Jared Goff. We've been talking all year about how good Jared Goff has been. I went on a whole tirade last week talking about why he's number 1 in the MVP ranking. Now you look at Lamar and you're like, maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong, but this is the time to talk about what he did. He didn't have his best game, and it's okay because the sum of the parts, the team as a whole, they picked him up. Wasn't a good game by him at all.
He finished.
Wasn't that?
He did, but it wasn't a good game, though. Like,
imagine Tom Brady for the Patriots, the dynasty run, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, the run they're on. That was one of those games. Patriots trailing in the second half, 2 touchdowns, 16 points.
Super Bowl 28-3.
You just felt like this football team is going to always find a way to win the game. They are always going to do anything, make a play, something. And the other team is going to hear the footsteps once you start coming. You know, you always heard and felt those Tom Brady footsteps. You always feel, hell, the kicker for the Broncos, and we'll get into it, was feeling the footsteps of winning a game in Kansas City yesterday.
The tackle got run over.
I understand.
Mike Dana blocked that.
4 guys could have blocked it. 4 guys could have blocked it.
Where did Mike Dana go to school?
What I'm just trying to tell you is the Detroit Lions now, I think, have this mystique about them that it's like in Rocky II, when Tony says to Apollo, Man, I saw you beat that man like I never saw no man get beat before in my life, and the man kept coming after you.
Yeah.
That's what the Lions are now. You can beat them all you want in the first half, do this, that, 5 interceptions. They will continue to keep on coming after you. And that's exactly what happened yesterday in the game. KG is with us. Pete Spivak is with us. Thanks so much for being here on a Monday, a Veterans Day. Ryan Ermanni, Braylon Edwards, Tom Masway talking a Lions victory today.
Yeah, I think it's perfect that you said that. They will keep coming, Paul. That's what the Detroit Lions will do for you. It's because they got 3 years of experience. They started off 0-6. What happened that season? What did they finish that season? They finished 9-8. They finished above 500 that season. You look at last year in the games they played in the Chargers game, the same out of reach, the Green Bay. It's always a game they've always played. They're getting better and better and better. They've seen it. When you have seen it before and you're on that field, you can believe it's all right, cool. Look, I know we're down 23, we're on the road, but yeah, we did this before. We were down this against Minnesota. We found a way to come back against Minnesota. Or, we've done this against this team, or we've been in these spaces before. Now you can take it a play of the game, and now you have all 3 phases involved. How many times have we seen the special teams show up for the Detroit Lions this year, including Jake Bates, that we'll get into? How many times have you seen the defense led by Aaron Glenn? It's time to give this man some credit. It's time to give Aaron Glenn some credit for what he's doing with this defense, putting them in spots. Look what Look what the Houston Texans did in the first half, and look what they did in the second half. That defense didn't change. The players didn't change. Aaron Glenn found ways to get those guys and have some success. Aaron Glenn, remember the beginning of the season when the Lions were kind of struggling on offense? That defense was a catalyst picking the offense up. Here's Aaron Glenn yet again getting that defense to pick the offense up.
And he got a game ball. We're going to show you that momentarily. But I do want to point something out, obviously, which is, I think, the story of the day and really the story of this team. And Tom Masway, I actually gave you a shout-out today on Fox 2.
Thank you.
Earlier today. Because
Wasn't this your dream scenario?
You have been talking about the kicker for a number of years. And this is an element to the 2024 Lions that the 2023 Lions and the 2022 Lions did not have. They did not have a kicker.
That they could trust.
That they could trust, fine. And that they could trust from 50 and beyond. You're talking about a 58-yard field goal. That wouldn't even have been attempted last year. That was a 4th and 11 go for it last year.
He could hit a 68-yarder if he needed.
You're talking about a 52-yard field goal to win it. There is no sitting down on it on 3rd down. They're going to run a play at risk of penalty, interception, fumble, anything to knock them out of field goal range. They're not taking a knee, essentially, for a 52-yard field goal to win. If the Lions had Jake Bates last year, you would have been talking about an NFC Championship game victory and not a loss. Because Dan Campbell did not trust his kicker. He had to coach it differently. Now that he has a kicker, you can see how he has evolved as a coach. Dan Campbell has evolved as a coach because of the kicking situation. Jake Bates is a godsend for this team. Where he came from, brick salesman in Houston. I don't know anything about it. He's a man of faith. God bless him. God love him. And God thank you that he's ours. Because,
he was a Michigan Panther.
My goodness.
I told you about those men of faith.
Like it.
I told you about those young men of faith. Maz, I agree with Ryan Ermanni. Look, 3 years ago, they were playing against the New England Patriots. And Maz, you said it. They're only going for 2 or going for it because they have no kicker. They have no kicker. They don't trust the kicker. And you start looking at some of these losses that they're accumulating. It's funny because Dan Campbell actually developed his ability to go for it and his confidence because he didn't have a kicker. And now you're mixing that confidence with knowing you have Ben Johnson, knowing you have players you trust. Okay, let's sprinkle in Jake Bates from time to time. Like, that's dangerous. Maz, you always said it was dangerous. It's born out of necessity.
Yes.
That 2-point, that their conversion rate was born out of necessity. Now they have a kicker where they don't have to rely on that. That just makes the Lions even that more dangerous.
They'll fake field goals now.
Yeah.
They'll fake extra points because everyone knows that Jake Bates is going to deliver now.
I'm not trying to get Jake Bates hurt. Stay away from the face. Stay away from the face.
Refresh my memory here on the UFL. Didn't he kick a 65-yarder?
64.
The guy is from 60 a few times.
Yeah, legit.
So he can do it. There's no question about it. Just don't do it so tight to the post on each side. Just try to get it down the middle.
Jake Bates, and I got this from OptaStats. Jake Bates is the first kicker in the history of the NFL.
There's another first for Detroit.
To kick a 55-plus yarder to tie it and a 50-plus yarder to win it in the fourth quarter of a game in the history of the NFL. Dan Campbell after the game on Jake Bates. Kicking coming up huge. The game tying and the game winning.
Thursday at the end of practice, we did an end-of-game situation live. Offense versus defense, and we were at the minus 46 seconds left, one timeout for the win. And so Golf hit Saint, and got it to the plus 43. And, there we are, 1 second left after the timeout, and rolled him out there, and he nailed it. And this was outside, slight wind in his face. And so, man, you could just feel the team as well as all of us. There's just a confidence, and, okay, man, that was big. So it was the first thing I thought of when we got there, and I'm looking at it. I'm thinking about, you go for this, and I just felt good about it. I just felt like he was going to make it.
Ryan, this goes back to what I was talking to about being prepared and being able to do things once you've already seen them. They've seen this because they've done it in their practice. The difference between good teams that win, and coaches, it goes back to preparation. We said that after the Green Bay game when they were prepared to play in the rain. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Same thing you see now in them. They practice this. I've been on teams in the NFL that didn't practice this situation, this last second where you're in a 2-minute drill, you're getting down there, you're trying to get the footage, and then you boom, get the field goal kicker in. I've been on teams that didn't practice that. And when that moment came in those games, those teams weren't ready for that. And I've also been on teams that have done that in practice and then executed in the playoffs. Nick Folk, most notably against the Indianapolis Colts in 2010. So you practice this. The team has seen this. Jake Bates was going into this game very relaxed. We were the nervous ones, not Jake Bates, because he's seen it before in practice.
Listen, if you notice the Sunday night games, they're very rarely a blowout game. Mm-hmm. They're always going to come down to the end. And I don't know, I was just sitting there in the second half just chilling. I was on my phone just prepping for the show.
I tweeted about it.
I'm just chilling. And my kids calling me. I'm like, relax, it's 60 minutes. They just kept coming. And then to stop them at midfield and make them try to kick a field goal with and a bad snap, and the guy yanked it left. And
Kai Fairbairn.
Yeah, he's good. He's solid.
But I tweeted about it at halftime. I said, I've never seen a Dan Campbell-led team be so unready to play a football game, but I still believe they're going to come back and win the game.
I didn't have a doubt.
It looked very eerily similar to the Tennessee Titans game. It looked just like the Tennessee Titans game. Jared Goff couldn't get it going. There was breakdowns in the protections early on. It looked very similar. And even maybe the Minnesota Vikings game as well.
Point I wanted to make about that.
Gotcha.
This isn't the Tennessee Titans. They went on the road to a division champion, to a place that a lot of people believe, at the start of the season anyway, and still now are going to contend for the Super Bowl. Yeah. And they came back from a 16-point deficit at halftime to win the football game.
And shut them out in the second half.
0 points. I don't think you can underscore how big that part of it. This wasn't the Will Levis-led Tennessee Titans at home. This was the C.J. Stroud, D'Amico Ryans-led Houston Texans on the road at their place in prime time. That is a statement.
Without Zadarius Smith, who they gave the week off.
And that's what I was getting to. Without Zadarius Smith, who they gave the week off. Appreciate that time as well. You look at it. Each time this has happened, you look at it against Minnesota, who wasn't there. Hutch wasn't there against that game. You look at it against Tennessee, and now you look at it against Houston. They didn't have that. But, Ryan, what you got to add is Houston hasn't played like this since Nico got hurt. This is the best the Houston Texans have played. Maybe even all year. That first half, that's the best that they've looked. They look flawless, to your point, and the Detroit Lions were still able to, with Aaron Glenn at the DC, come up with adjustments. Second half is when you find out how good teams are. You got to make adjustments in the second half, and that's what you're seeing from the Detroit Lions on defense. They're finding ways to make those adjustments because they are hampered, if you will, at the defensive line spot.
They could not run the ball against the Lions. Did you see Joe Mixon take that tablet and chuck it? When Joe Mixon can't run the ball, and he's having one of his best years, if not his best year, they just suffocate you. The middle of that line is Aleem McNeil is a monster.
Yep.
He is having a monster year. DJ Reader. Everything's coming from the inside.
Yeah.
Wait till Zadarius Smith comes out. James Houston crapped himself and got a sack. That
was crazy.
I mean everyone played hard.
That's what he said.
Everybody played hard.
Maybe
Everyone
hard.
stepped up.
For real.
And let's hope Zadarius Smith is the difference maker going forward.
Hey,
Braylon,
shout out to James Houston, though. He left it all on the field.
He
did.
did, but you mentioned Aaron Glenn a couple of times now. Let's talk about him for a second, because when you shut out an NFL team at their building, anywhere, at home or on the road, but especially on the road, that offense, you shut them out, that says something. And you did so without Aiden Hutchinson, without Zadarius Smith. And I think you got to give Josh Paschal a lot of credit, Jack Campbell a lot of credit, Aleem McNeil a lot of credit. These guys played their tails off. You couldn't run on them, but you couldn't pass on them either. Brian Branch led the team in tackles. 10 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 2 passes defensed, and a quarterback hit.
Is it crazy to say he's the best safety in the game?
He didn't even
Pro
get
Football
mentioned.
Focus hasn't rated that way.
He didn't even get mentioned
I know.
in the postgame show. That was his stat line. We didn't even talk about Carlton Davis yet.
Oh, 2
Carlton
interceptions.
Davis, and Braylon, you had mentioned, did you see the second half interview coming back? Did anybody catch that?
Oh,
yeah.
The second half
100%.
interview, Dan Campbell, and they record those a little bit before and then play them back as the game is going on. So it wasn't live,
But it was the first play
but
of
it
offense.
was the first play of offense. Yeah, no doubt. So it was pretty incredible. Dan Campbell says, we need to get turnovers. And there's Carlton Davis, first play of the second half, getting an interception. Carlton Davis.
Walking off the field.
There you go.
There it is.
Hey, man, shout out to all the fans, man. What up, though? Nothing but grit. 8-1, baby. Hey, we back at it next week. Catch us, man.
You think he's happy?
He got a game ball.
On with Detroit?
Hell yeah.
He did get a game
Did you
ball.
see Zadarius Smith on the sideline coaching?
Yeah.
He's coaching.
You think he was having a lot of fun?
Right next to the D-line coach and right next to Aaron Glenn. Already, he's a Detroit Lion already. This guy went from hell like you did. Cleveland. He went from hell to heaven.
That's the energy that I'm talking about, though. Like, when you leave a situation like that, when he leaves Cleveland, you know Cleveland's the dumpster fire, and you basically escape. You escaped and you get to a team that's playing at a level like this, that's in games like this, that listens like this, that wants to win and does win like this. It gets you excited, man. And even though he's not playing, I was fortunate enough to play my first game, but I felt the energy. He's coaching. He's out there like, man, I see this, I see that. But did you see how they were interacting with him? They were interacting with him. They weren't listening like, all right, man, look, we got it. They were listening like, okay, what do you see?
He's already a leader.
I'd appreciate your perspective as well, man.
You think he looks like he's completely reborn? Does that guy look like he's just having the time of his life right now, or what?
He's as happy as we are.
I think he also welcomes you. You've talked about this a lot, Ryan. He's welcoming the moment that's coming. You know what moment this is going to be for him. This is his moment to be Zadarius Smith, unhindered by Rashawn Gary, unhindered by Matthew Judon or whatever. This is his chance to be a leader, step up, and be maybe the guy, if you will. I think he's relishing this opportunity.
Just more about the organization, too. I think it says a lot about this organization and sends a message to the league and the league's players as well. This was Zadarius Smith's bye week with the Cleveland Browns. The Lions gave him a couple of days off. He didn't even get to Detroit until Friday. Trade happened on Tuesday. Okay, trade happens Friday. Take a couple of days, Zadarius. It's your bye week. Come on Friday. They don't force him into the lineup on Sunday. He's all smiles. That is going to benefit him and this team so much. It's little stuff like that that might be little to you and me. It's huge to a player like Zadarius Smith. And Snacks Harrison tweeted about that earlier in the week. And said, "Oh, I didn't even have time to grab a towel." Right,
And if you heard Zadarius Smith in the post game, he said that he has a house down there in Florida. He was caught up in the hurricane, so those couple days allow him to go down there and actually check on what was going on with his house and everything with his family down there. So, like I said, this organization just continues to be a model of class, and that's something that we have never seen as Lions fans. They continue to have a plan. The type of guy Zadarius Smith is, he fits this thing perfectly. And everybody that wanted them to go out and get a star and get a name, no, that was never the plan, but they were going to get somebody that was going to fit this culture perfectly like a glove. And I can't wait to see Zadarius on the field next week, because
he got his number too, 99 from Broderick Smith.
Speaking of class, they're in a class of their own as it relates to the second half of the NFL games. In the last 7 games, Ryan and Amon, 5 of those games, they've only allowed 6 or more points in the second half.
Yeah.
Just let that set in. In 5 of 7 games, they've only allowed 6 or less in the second half. That's winning football. I don't care who's playing on that defense. Aaron Glenn has got them to buy in, and he's getting them to play a sound form of football. That's a team plan that's working well.
Dan Campbell's record, right, since he started, they started 0-6 that year?
Mm-hmm.
And then they won 9 games. His record is only second in the NFL behind
I think he's 28.
behind Andy Reid. He's second to Andy Reid in the last 3 years. That's your Super Bowl.
We can talk about that in a little bit too. Is that the matchup that you think the league wants right now? Is it Kansas City, Detroit, or
Baltimore,
or something else like that? But Ben Johnson. Just getting back to the Lions' defense for a second. Ben Johnson is the guy that gets all the love around the league because offense is sexy, right?
Yeah.
Chicks dig the offense, right? But it's really the defense that is the reason why this team is a Super Bowl contender. And Aaron Glenn is every bit the coordinator that Ben Johnson is on offense. Aaron Glenn is on defense. They were talking about him last night. He's got to be the favorite to be a head coach in New Orleans next year, you would think. Aaron Glenn going back to New Orleans. This is a coach that's got these players playing at an incredible clip right now, and everybody's getting better. That's the one thing about it. All these young guys, they come and they get better. That's coaching. That's development. That's learning how to be a pro. That's understanding your assignments. And I just think Aaron Glenn, it's time that he gets his due as well.
Yeah, and I think, they set the tone last year when we talked about how players felt about him. They said that he was the number one coordinator, and this was news to us. I'm like, players ranked Aaron Glenn the number one coordinator, and this was coming from league players, so that kind of set the tone, and I think he's just following suit, and he's continuing to hammer out the details. It's fun to watch his defenses in the second half, man. I can't tell you how good it is to watch the team. When you see how on fire the Houston Texans were in that first half, it seemed like C.J. Stroud could do no wrong. Tank Dell was getting into the spots. Joe Mixon, he wasn't having much success in the running game, but did have that touchdown. They found a way to get him involved. It just seemed like Bobby Slowick had Aaron Glenn's number. Like you said, Maz, it's a long game. It's a 60-minute game. When you go in that locker room, I remember the first time I started realizing about locker room adjustments when I watched USC. USC with Norm Chow when I was in college, they would make adjustments at halftime, and they would come out and be a completely different team on offense. It was almost like cheating. That's how this Lions defense team, because once Ben Johnson, they get that thing rocking and rolling in the second half, makes it easy for the defense, man. They play great team, cohesive ball, man. It's fun to watch.
Listen, man, we talk about this team. They're so together. They're the only team that has all their coordinators and coaches for the past 4 or 5 years together. And it's going to change. There's going to be some great jobs opening up next year. The Bears will open, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Jets.
Can you imagine one of them take the interdivision rivalry?
There's some historic franchises that are going to have openings next year. And we're going to lose Ben Johnson. And you're going to lose
I'm
Aaron
not so
Glenn.
sure of that, to be honest with you. I'm just going to say that right now.
If you do lose him, Dan Campbell has gotten such positivity going that people are going to line up to come here and play. Robert Saleh could come here and take over if Aaron Glenn leaves. There's a million guys out there that could come here in a second. But it's amazing what they have done and what they show in this league. They are the number one team when you look at them. That's where I want to go. I want to go play for that team.
Definitely destination is the word you're looking for. Ryan, let me ask you this question. Is this fandom and bias that you don't think Ben Johnson will leave, or is this you just don't think there's an opportunity that he will want to pursue next season? Which one is it when you say Ben Johnson, you don't think he's going to leave?
I just take him at his word. I take him at his word. He's just not going to jump at any opportunity. And then you look at some of these miserable organizations. Who wants to go coach for the Jets? Who wants to go? You going to go coach Aaron Rodgers?
He'll be done.
I don't know. Maybe he won't be.
He's done.
But do you want to go coach for a dumpster fire? In no offense to the New York Jets,
it's all good.
Do you want to go? Do you want? I mean, the Chicago Bears.
Yes,
he's an offensive mind.
I understand, but I'm just saying the Chicago Bears have won nothing since 1985, and they are a miserable organization. They have miserable ownership. Right. They have miserable everything, and I'm just saying.
Harris McCaskies are not bad owners.
Well, I don't know.
They're not.
They
Jets owners. Woody Johnson, that's pathetic.
They remind me a little bit of the William Clay Ford ownership. Loyalty, nice, very nice people that just kind of, you put your arm around it. What do you mean I'm fired? You know what I mean?
If you're an offensive coordinator and you hear these names, Roma Dunizé, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Caleb Williams, what does that do for you as an offensive coordinator?
I mean, you got to believe in the quarterback too.
That's true.
You got to believe in the
That poor
quarterback.
guy. We'll talk about it.
You're not going,
and ain't all his fault.
I know, but you're not going anywhere unless you got a perfect quarterback.
Fair enough.
If there is such a thing. So I just don't know.
Okay.
All I'm saying is it's not a 100% slam dunk that he goes anywhere if he's not comfortable with the situation.